Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into one of the wildest, most profound, and honestly one of the funniest texts in all of philosophy, the Zhuangzi. It's a brilliant argument for something you might not expect, the power of being completely useless. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get a feel for the super rigid world that Zhuangzi was pushing back against. Then, we're going to unpack his radical vision of what freedom really is, get a little lost in his mind-bending stories, and finally, see how this ancient wisdom is, believe it or not, more relevant than ever. So, to really appreciate Zhuangzi's whole philosophy of freedom, you first have to feel the pressure of the world he wanted to escape. We're talking about a society that was absolutely obsessed with order, with duty, and with doing everything the quote-unquote right way. Okay, so let's set the scene. Zhuangzi lived way back around the 4th century BCE, smack in the middle of a time called the Warring States period, and it was just as chaotic as it sounds. China was basically shattered into all these rival states, and this constant turmoil sparked this incredible explosion of philosophy called the 100 Schools of Thought. Everybody had a plan to fix a very broken world. Now, the most popular solution on the table was Confucianism. The idea was to bring back order through really strict social roles, duties, rituals, a place for everyone and everyone in their place. But Zhuangzi, he looked at all that and saw a prison for the human spirit. He said, no, there's a totally different path, a path that embraces the wild, spontaneous flow of nature itself, what he called the Tao. So what was Zhuangzi's big answer to all this rigid structure? Well, it wasn't to come up with a better list of rules. Not at all. His plan was to tear up the rulebook entirely and teach us to see reality in a completely different way. At the absolute center of his thinking is the Tao, or the Way. Now, you've got to forget any ideas about it being a moral code or some kind of instruction manual. It's way bigger than that. Think of it like a giant cosmic river. You don't find freedom by building a dam or trying to fight the current. You find it by learning to swim with its natural, effortless flow. And this leads us to this amazing concept called Wu Wei. Now, it's often translated as doing nothing, which makes it sound like you're just being lazy, but that's not it at all. It really means effortless action. The best example is a master artist or musician. They're not thinking about every single brushstroke or note. Their hands just move. They are acting in perfect, spontaneous harmony with their craft. That's Wu Wei. Okay, so this all sounds great, but how do you actually live like this? Well, this is where Zhuangzi gets really interesting. He doesn't give you a 5-step guide. Instead, he just tells stories. And these parables are designed to completely shatter our basic assumptions about what's valuable and what even makes sense. He tells this story about a huge, gnarled, twisted old tree. I mean, by any practical standard, this thing is completely and totally useless. Its wood is too knotty to be used for furniture or building, so every carpenter who comes by just looks at it, scoffs, and walks on. And right here, we get to one of Zhuangzi's most famous and powerful ideas, the uselessness of uselessness. Think about it. Because the tree served no practical purpose for humans, it was never chopped down. It was just left alone to grow ancient and huge, providing shade and shelter for everyone. Its so-called uselessness was the very thing that saved it and allowed it to become what it was truly meant to be. So you can see what he's doing here, right? Zhuangzi isn't trying to win a logical debate. He uses paradox and humor in these totally bizarre stories to make us question the very ground we stand on. He wants to shake up our whole perception of reality. And his most iconic story, the one everyone knows, is the butterfly dream. So he dreams that he's a butterfly. And in this dream, he has zero memory of ever being a man named Zhuangzi. He is simply and joyfully a butterfly fluttering around. Then, all of a sudden, he wakes up. And yup, he's Zhuangzi again. But this leaves him with this absolutely dizzying question. Is he a man who just dreamed he was a butterfly? Or is he a butterfly who is now dreaming he's a man? And the whole point of the story is that there is no answer. He's not trying to solve the riddle. The goal is to make us comfortable with uncertainty, to get us to embrace the fact that our logical minds have limits, and to maybe, just maybe, recognize that reality is a whole lot stranger than we think. This radical call for freedom, for spontaneity, for questioning everything, it has echoed for more than 2,000 years through East Asian thought. And what's really amazing is how much it still speaks to us today. I mean, his ideas became a cornerstone for Taoism. They were absorbed so deeply into Zen Buddhism, which really shares that focus on direct experience over just reading doctrines. You can see his influence all over East Asian art, which so often celebrates wild natural beauty instead of human-made perfection. And today, his critique of blind ambition and conformity, it feels like it could have been written this morning for our anxious, productivity-obsessed world. When he was offered the incredibly powerful job of prime minister, Zhuangzi famously said no. He compared being an official to being a sacrificial ox, all fattened up and decorated right before it's led to the altar. He said he would much rather be a happy pig, just playing in the mud. And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway here, a provocative question about what a truly free and truly valuable life really looks like. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.